Hey everyone, Michelle Seidling here with another episode of Military Transition Wellness. Today we are talking about shame and guilt and how that can rack you as you exit the military and really affect your entire life unless you get a handle on it. And with us to help us unravel all of those mysteries is Lois Hollis, a registered nurse and author and all things shame and guilt. Welcome to the podcast, Lois. This podcast is available on multiple platforms, including YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and others. Please be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to be informed as new episodes become available. If you enjoyed today's episode or any of our episodes, please rate and review the podcast on your favorite platform. As always, check out our website at foodexperienceunplugged.com for some resources as you begin your health journey.
Oh, thank you. And it's quite a wonderful pleasure to give this information to everyone, but especially to our military, because I believe, since I have a husband, Navy SEAL person, they have gotten a double dose. Like, we haven't gotten enough, but the military tends to put a little bit more on you. I don't know why. It doesn't matter. It just makes me want to give this information to those people who don't need this shame guilt double dose. Nobody needs it, but you especially don't need it. So I could talk about my life for a couple minutes, but I'm here to serve you. Okay? That's why I'm here. And I'm here to serve like you have served.
Thank you. And we sure appreciate you being here to serve. Will you take a moment to tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to this point in your life and career and why the focus on shame and guilt?
Okay, well, I'll give you the Reader Digest version because I'm 78 years old. Okay, I've always wanted to be in the health field. I can't remember a time when I didn't. And was that 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years old? I don't know. But everything in my life was, how can I be healthy? And how can I help other people become healthy when I become healthy? And I think that arose because I had many childhood traumas, physical and emotional. You know, lots of cranial problems, beaten on the head, jaws were broken, my neck was broken, my left side, 4 ribs, 5 ribs on this side. So I had quite hard experience, and any physical trauma carries an emotional trauma as well. Mm-hmm. So, however, I just kind of put that in the background. And in my 20s, I became very successful as a nurse. How I did it, I don't know, but you know how we have spirit, we keep on going. Mm-hmm. And I helped develop the first kidney hemodialysis unit in the country in 1966 and set up the hospital dialysis, home dialysis, helped with the hepatitis. And then I worked with open heart surgery in its infancy at Johns Hopkins Hospital and University of Maryland. So looking back on my life, I'm sort of something like I start something. Like, I'm a trailblazer, but I never thought I was a trailblazer because something needed to be done, and I just did it because it wasn't done. Mm. So that brings us till today, because somewhere in my 50s, middle age, how everything falls down on you.
Sure.
I was given a year or 2 to live because of all the brain problems. I had 30 years of medication because I had migraine headaches because of the severe brain traumas. My heart was leaking valve. And as a medical person, they were right. But somehow I didn't believe that I was sick. That's really quite funny, isn't it? But in my mind, I wasn't sick. Anyway, so I found this wonderful chiropractor who helped heal all my bones. AKA Navy SEAL person who's a chiropractor. So anyway, he helped me, but I still had the emotional issues. I was so shameful and I was so guilty, but I did not know that that's what the problem was. And that's why I want to tell you, I was just depressed. And then so I went to the library because somebody said, Lois, what do you do about shame? And I went, I don't know. That's an odd word. This is like 50 years ago. So I went to the library, no internet at that time, and Ratchall's book was Shame is a Sickness of the Soul. Well, anyway, I started understanding more and more and more. The more research I did, and more understanding I did, because I did some counseling for people, Not when I was
Sure.
real depressed, though, because I had to put everything on hold. I became aware of shame, guilt is the cause of all negative emotions. And it was like I was so happy because I didn't have to go to therapy for depression. I didn't have to go for anxiety. I didn't have to go for suicide. I didn't have to go through all those things because I just had to get rid of shame, guilt. And I realized it's an energy that
Mm.
targets our emotions, which is what I want to offer today. And this has helped many, many, many people. We have to start square one. The love energy we have. Everyone knows what that is. And what does love give us? It gives us joy and happiness. And we have great confidence.
Sure. Absolutely.
And we're compassionate. We're smart. We're intuitive. It gives us all these wonderful emotions. Now, on the other side, we have shame, guilt, energy. Like the last podcast I did, they called it the shame, guilt leech. So that's another way of looking at it.
Mhm.
Shame guilt is an energy that preys upon us because it's sort of like a parasite. It
Mm.
kind of takes our energy from us. When you're in shame or guilt, how do you feel? And it takes your energy. I'm explaining to you why.
Mm.
Now, what happens to your computer, Michelle, when you get a computer virus?
Well, your computer doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, and the Microsoft Word doesn't work, and but your computer works different than mine, even though we have the same computer virus.
Mm.
And what do we have to do?
You have to get
We
the
have to
virus
get
out.
a computer virus removal program. And that's what I'm talking about, a shame guilt removal program.
Ah.
Okay.
Now
Now,
what you use those words together almost as one word. Can you tell us a little bit about why you do that versus talking about them as two separate things?
thank you. As you know, we have two nervous systems, the conscious and the unconscious nervous system. Shame, guilt, energy. Shame goes on the unconscious nervous system.
Mm.
Guilt goes on the conscious nervous system. But it's the same energy. They call it different names because it affects different parts of our mind.
Mm.
An example, if you have a virus in your brain, they call it meningitis. Okay. If you
Okay.
have the same virus in your stomach, they call it gastritis.
Mm.
If you have the same virus in your liver, they call it hepatitis. The same virus in your kidneys, they call it nephritis. Do you see how you get confused?
Yes.
That's how the medical world organizes itself. I don't know why, but it confuses the issue when it's the same XK virus, but it
Mm.
affects different organs, so it calls it a different name, but the root cause is the same.
Mm.
So I'm getting
Interesting.
down to the root cause here. So I call it shame guilt energy because
Okay.
your mind goes, shame's here and guilt's here. And I have to get rid of the shame. But then you do think about it, but then the guilt comes in and then the shame comes back because it's the same thing.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? If you want to
Sure.
take down, you can't take down a piece of it because it just grows back.
Mm.
Shame,
Okay.
guilt, energy is together. I can't call it another name. I wish I could because it confuses people. But you will never, never, never get rid of guilt
Mhm.
until you release the shame that's causing the guilt.
Interesting.
Okay, so that's really so. If anything people get today is stop making yourself feel more shameful because you can't get rid of the guilt. And I'm saying, you're right. I agree with you. You'll never get rid of the guilt until you get rid of the shame that's causing the guilt.
Mm. Okay.
Now, I know that's a different viewpoint, but hey, it gets you out of the shame guilt prison.
Sure, absolutely. Now, in your experience, how have those transitioning from military service, how has that factor, those different nuances really affected them?
Well, just like we're talking today, the first thing is to realize shame, guilt doesn't belong to us. It just was put upon humanity and we became lesser than. But it's a great way of control.
Okay. Now, do you feel that the shame, guilt, that does that affect those in the military differently than those outside the military?
In my experience, I feel that most people in the military have been pla- um, have been more have been given more shame, guilt, energy because of the way the whole thing works than, let's say, the normal population. But some people, the normal population, who have gotten so abused, they have just as much. So I'm talking about on a general scale. So,
Sure.
and it's not a bad thing. It's just that this information is so good because it can show you how to get out. And it doesn't matter how much shame guilt you have because shame guilt only has one defect. It dissolves in detection. Now you know why people don't talk about it.
Mm,
Do,
okay.
do, you, do you remember The Wizard of Oz? You're
I
young
do.
enough. Okay.
I do.
When Dorothy goes to up the yellow brick road to see the all powerful Oz. I mean, the wizard, you know, and she's trembling because he's such a big person and she's afraid and scared.
Mhm.
And then little Toto, the doggy, opens the curtain. And what does she see? A little old man, bald and gray, over with a big machine making smoke. The jig is up. That's what we're talking about today, Michelle.
Mm,
Shame Gill is a big puff of smoke.
okay. Can
I
you
know it's going to take a couple minutes for all this because this is different, but once you're all very intelligent, once you hear truth, you change. You don't have to debate it. Once you
sure.
hear truth, you change. And it's
Yes.
just a big puff of smoke. So, how do you deal with it? Well, I believe that we all carry shame guilt energy. I've been in 13 countries in about a year. So I mean like India and they go, yeah, we have that too here, Lois. Everybody has it, but they don't name it. You know how it is to name it, then you can deal with it. And in the military, I think the best thing that you can say is know thy enemy. And shame guilt energy is the only enemy you have. It's not your mother or your father or the sergeant or the general or whatever. It's
Mhm.
shame guilt energy that they use unknowingly, unknowingly.
Interesting.
So now we're getting smart.
Mm,
Now, shame guilt energy has will not stay within you once you know the story. It will move on. It will move on. So when you're going into transition, I think you're correct. It's the hardest thing is because any um, vulnerability you have gets blown up. And then we
mhm.
say, oh, I'm shameful, I'm guilty, I can't. But we don't even say these words. We say, oh, I can't do it. I did wrong in this. I shouldn't have done. We do that. And that's called our inner critic, right?
Okay.
Everyone knows
Sure.
about the inner critic. The inner critic is we have many parts inside of us. We have, little kids and we have our inner critic. We have like a family inside of us. That's a whole nother story of emotions. But I think for what we need to talk about today is the inner critic. And the inner critic only has one way of helping us. It
Mm,
uses shame guilt behaviors because that's all culture taught him or her, right?
mm.
Really,
Yes.
when you think about it, maybe your mother or your father or somebody else taught you something else, but we were taught to use shame guilt to get things done. Or that's just the way it is, and I believe that's that's very important to note. So the shame guilt shame guilt person inside of us is our inner critic. And we can make friends with our inner critic. Of course, it's like my I'm Good film, the third episode, shows you how to talk with your inner critic. So that, you can't shut them up, get away and kick them out. We kick out shame, guilt, energy, but we don't kick out our inner critic because he's our good guy. He's our best friend. So once we're say, look, you're living in 1940 or 50. When I was a little kid, I needed protection. I'm an adult now. It's 2022. Can you come into my timeline now? So it's like you and me. If we wanted to become friends, you would tell me this, I would tell you this, and then we would be how we could support each other in podcasting and stuff. But we had to talk to it, and we talk to ourselves all the time.
Okay.
I'm just telling you to make it more usable. After my inner critic's called King, of course, right? And he, instead of shaming, guilting me all the time when I want to do something, he changed his job. He did it. I didn't tell him. He changed his job, and he now goes around trying to find me podcasts instead of putting me down. And the people that I have worked with, they have done the same as well. So if anything people can take home today is when shame guilt comes and you start feeling it, just say no, like Toto, go away. Is that going to get everything away? No, but it's a good start. And then say, how do you feel? I don't feel good enough. Okay, you can say, hi, I don't good enough. What do you have to tell me? Talk to your emotions. You don't talk to shame guilt. You can talk to your emotion because we talk to ourselves all the time anyway. We're just giving ourselves names.
Sure. Now, why is that whole shame guilt thing? Why is that so dangerous for us? Was when we're exiting the military and beyond.
Well, that's like shame guilt energy heightens when we do anything different. We go into the military, or we go out of the military, and you're kind of like leaving a home, because you're all close, and then you go on way out. It's like I remember my kids leaving college. They were like, "Oh no, I'm not going into the big world here. I'm staying here in college. I got all my friends and all my buddies here together," and they didn't want to leave. And I think that's part of it. So anything that's different makes us vulnerable to feeling not good enough. And nothing is bigger than transitioning from the military to another life. And I think my husband talked to me a lot about people just re-enlisting because it was more familiar.
Interesting.
So I'm not an expert in that, but I do know that it carries a lot of shame and guilt with it, and it's very hard to reestablish yourself. So if you can say, okay, that's the shame guilt talking. I'm not talking to you about shame guilt. I'm talking to you about how can we be friends. Shame guilt, go away. You don't belong to me. Because, like a computer virus, shame goes into your brain and makes you very confused.
Okay.
Shame goes into your emotions and turns them from positive to negative. It goes from compassion to depression. Our intuition goes to anxiety. Our passion turns to anger. So what I'm saying is that shame guilt energy turns our positive, beautiful, loving self into a negative self. But it's not one emotion. It's not depression. It's not anxiety. It's all of them. So isn't it smarter to get rid of the bad guy? I kind of feel like if you have when it rains, you have rain coming into your kitchen and rain coming into your bedroom. Then when it stops raining, you clean it all up and it's all nice and clean. Then it rains again. And then you got to clean up the bathroom and the kitchen and maybe the other rooms. And then it rains again. So wouldn't it be better to fix the hole in the roof?
Definitely.
So that's what I'm saying today. Shame guilt is stopping all of us from moving on. Everybody has it.
Okay. So what are the first steps to that, fixing the roof, so to speak, and really healing?
Getting rid of it. Yeah. Let's fix it.
Sure.
Okay. Because everybody says, love yourself. Well, somebody's got to tell you how. Okay. I'm the how person. So first thing is to know is shame, guilt, energy doesn't belong to me, doesn't belong to humanity. It's like, don't put it in your words like, oh, it's such a shame it's raining today. I can't barbecue. Oh, it's such a shame so and so died. Don't use the word shame. We don't call that because it's outside there. Now it's not going to totally take it all away, but at least you got your mind changed. Okay? Shame, guilt doesn't belong to me. Shame, guilt is not ours to own or to give. And why it's important to say that shame, guilt's together because shame makes guilt more, and guilt makes more shame. Do you see how it's a vicious cycle?
Yes.
You'll never get out, and your mind's going, well, shame's here, guilt's here. You know, you just, that you're not going to get out of it. And that's what I want to say today is that you're right. And I'm tired of people suffering, you know?
Sure.
I mean, we talk about why is it there and whatever, but it doesn't belong to us. Our emotions belong to us. The I have the, you're probably familiar with this, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. It has most of the mental diseases, emotional diseases, and 924 pages. They never mention shame, guilt. And all these illnesses are result of shame, guilt, like hepatitis, you know, you got cholecystitis, you got meningitis, you got nephritis, you got arthritis, you got bursitis. Do you see what I'm saying? We got all these names, but is that going to help you? Oh, I got bursitis. Does that help you heal? No. It's shame, guilt, energy. So we have to clear our mind and just say it's shame, guilt, energy, but I can talk to my depression. I can talk to my sadness. Hi, how are you? And that really, and I have another film on how to talk to your emotions. And they're all free. So it can, so today is like leading you to a place of resolution. It doesn't belong to you. If you don't believe me, that's okay. You will in time. But at least you're thinking another way because people that have been in the military are incredibly strong and resilient. I've met several through my husband, and I admire them so much because of what what they have done, and they just have to say shame, guilt doesn't belong to me. Get away. Hi, sadness. How are you? That's it. That's the first step to take, and never say my shame or my guilt. No, 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 no. Shame, guilt's not yours to own. It's an energy force, okay? That turns all your positive emotions to negative ones. You see, each emotion has a negative part and a positive part. It's not that they're separate emotions. That's really important to know. So we're all positive. We don't have to go to therapy for a couple of years to find compassion or to find your intuition. You already got it. You just have to get rid of the black cover of shame, taking it off, because that's all. It's a thing. That's why I made my film. It's a thing. Shame, guilt is a thing. A leech, an alien. I mean, people call it all sorts of things. I have a contest going. Who has the best name for it? Because everybody sees it differently. But think of a leech or a parasite just sucking the life out of you. And I made shame, guilt visible. That's why I'm a filmmaker.
So is that kind of it? Do you consider shame, guilt like the root cause of these different ailments?
All 924 pages. Okay. And in one of my books, I have, and I call like depression and anxiety symptoms. They're not mental disorders. They're symptoms of shame, guilt, energy. Isn't that a different approach? Because when you say, oh, I have a mental disorder, I have depression. No, don't have a mental disorder. You have the symptom that shame, guilt's around. That's all. Do you see how it frees you?
Sure. But yet but all of these different ailments and so forth, but they're treated very differently.
Not really. Depends on the person. I mean, there's a nuance to it, but all it is, one of my clients told me the best story. I had a call a couple weeks ago, and he said, "I would love for you to help me out, Miss Hollis, but I don't think you can." I said, "Oh, why do you say that?" He said, "Because I've been in depression for a long time, and I've been in therapy for 3 or 4 years, and I've done uh, all the courses and everything, and I'm more depressed because I haven't been able to heal. They just tell me to manage it." And he said, "I'm tired of managing it. I want to get rid of it." And I said, "It's not your fault because you weren't told that that depression, unless you get rid of the shame guilt causing the depression, you're not going to get rid of the depression. And it really sucks to manage it all the time. How can you live a full life when you're trying to manage my depression, manage my anger, manage my fighting, manage my bullying? I mean, seriously, you'll go goofy." So I'm trying. Can you see? Okay, there is a value to managing your emotions. If you get angry at somebody, don't go off and hit them. Okay, that's a good thing.
Mhm.
But that's step number one. Step number two is, okay, let's find the shame guilt in your life that happened when you're 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. Release it, because shame guilt dissolves in detection, and it's gone. Now that part is gone. You still have shame guilt in other areas, but you're actually getting rid of it. And then I teach people how not to take any more on. And
Interesting.
as a culture, we know we just know shame guilt behaviors because that's how we were raised, and that's how people control us. So we
Sure.
have to learn what is shame guilt behaviors, and that's what I have on my website: 500 questions, one answer. And I have 500 ways that you can shame yourself or others can shame you. So when someone's talking on the phone and they're doing whatever, you just go, "I don't take that." Do, 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 do.
Okay. So, what are some, I guess, takeaways, words of wisdom for those exiting the military to really get a hold of this and really resolve any shame guilt that they've been feeling over the
Okay,
years or upcoming?
I think the first thing would say is fear of the unknown. And you know what fear is? Shame guilt. Okay, they just have another name for it because fear is more intense than anger. When you have fear, you go, "Get away, shame guilt." That's
Okay.
all fear is shame guilt. Once you call it, it shrinks. It doesn't have the power. When you do a magician trick or something, and then you figure out how they did it, you go, "Ah, he's not a big deal." You think he's a magical person, and they realize he's got flowers under his lapel or something pulls it out. So once you see the magic trick, what happens? You don't have so much. He's not such a magician, is he? So that's the first thing to say. And if you can't remember it, because shame erases your memory.
Mhm.
Okay, that's one of the things that puts you in confusion. It's got all
Okay.
these tricks. It's very tricky, very very tricky. So and I had sometimes I work with people and I give them shame guilt buddies. Like you would call me on the shame guilt that I am talking about, and you would call me because we can't see it because we're so inundated in our culture. But we have
Outstanding.
to keep talking about it because shame goes away in our mind. It's still there, but where we're not conscious of it, it sneaks upon us again.
Mm.
And you call it, "Oh, I'm so stupid. I fell for that one again." No, it's just tricky. It's tricky.
Mm. So,
It's
do you
almost like,
ever?
go ahead, did ever what?
Oh, I was saying, do you ever get rid of shame guilt in your life then?
I believe I've been working on this for a good 10 years, and I can say a lot of it is gone, that I don't get reactive. And I go, "Oh, Nicole went over on me." So at least I can
Mhm.
see it now. But you
Sure.
got to remember, we got our culture that does that to us. And returning from the military into public life again is very upsetting and fearful. It activates the fear within you. And I'm telling you, that's what happens. So I'm telling you to say, "Okay, fear, get out your shame guilt." I may don't
Okay.
believe it, but I can do it anyway because I just want to get rid of it. And you can do that because you're very powerful beings. We're very powerful. So we can say, "Get out." And then you can say, "Well, I'm just really depressed and anxious." Okay, hi, anxiety. Thank you for talking to me. I'll talk to you. But I don't talk to that crap, fear crap, shame crap. I don't, it's and then the leech or the parasite just goes to another person that accepts it into their life.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're just, The first thing is, as I just said, the fear, it's shame guilt. Name it what it is, and then you can work on the bullying and all the other stuff. And when
Okay.
you, I have a list of all the like depression and sadness, procrastination, joke telling, anger, indifference, embarrassment, arrogance, cheating, PTSD, eating disorders, bullying, regret, loneliness, grief, self abuse, hopelessness, pity, hatred, suffering, lying, shyness, narcissism. All this is shame guilt. Phobias, moody, fear, defensiveness, grudges, accident prone, neglect, hostility, deceitful, sarcasm, worry, addictions, panic attack, defiant, jealous. I mean, it's all of them. And the
Yes.
big one of the biggest things I've seen that people that have eating disorders, anorexia and bulimia, once they get rid of the shame guilt in their lives, then they don't have disorders anymore.
Amazing. That is
That is
fantastic.
the biggest change because it's so dramatic. And so,
Sure. And
how do you work on the shame guilt in the military? It's like you don't work on it as the military. The first thing you do is you think of one incident in your life where you felt embarrassed, you're not good enough. And that's what we look at, and we're able to find it and take the energy of shame guilt and get rid of it. But you don't go right in the front door, you go in the back door, that things that are in your lifetime that happen. Even if you had a perfect childhood because your neighbor shamed you. I mean, you know what I'm saying.
sure.
It's just endemic. And that's why they say it's normal. Shame guilt behavior is not normal. We are very beautiful, perfect, prideful, honorable people. We're beautiful. Humanity is beautiful. We just
Fantastic.
have shame guilt put upon us and we don't know it. So I'm here today to blow the whistle.
Fantastic. Well, Lois, how can people get in contact with you?
My website, loishollis.com, like what you have on the screen, LOISHOLLIS.com. And I invite you to go to my website because it has many podcasts and that can reinforce what we're talking about today. Because as you know, this is a huge topic. One interview I had lasted 2.5 hours. So, and we
Wow.
still just skimmed it. We just still skim it. But we don't need all that information. We just need it doesn't belong to us, and you have the right to kick it out. And you talk to your inner critic not to make any more, and that can happen. This doesn't all happen in one day, but at least you're given another option.
Absolutely.
And also, I have my films, imgoodfilm.com. And it
Okay.
shows how shame guilt messes with your brain, messes with your emotions, and how to kick it out.
Mm.
Because I can't talk about all of that at one time because your brain's going like, wow, wow.
Sure. Well, Lois, it has been such a pleasure having you on the podcast. We sure appreciate all that you're doing to really get to the root cause of so many issues and
And
free us
free. We need
from
we
those
you,
things.
of all the people, you deserve freedom more than anybody. Okay, I got chills saying that, but you do. You have fought for freedom, and you personally deserve that. And the way to get out of that fear and control is kick shame guilt out. And you have the right to do that because now you know better.
Mm,
No, 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 don't belong here. Get out.
absolutely. Thank you so much, Lois. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you.